Audience analysis. How to determine the correct audience. This is a topic on which I'm gonna dwell a little in this course because it's a very important concept that you need to understand, which is the problematic nature of audience analysis. If you get nothing out of this course but a sense of how at times difficult it is to determine who your audience is and how to measure your impact on this audience, I would consider my job performed well. So, in theory, audience, also known as end users, is a very important factor when you're writing a document. For a document or text to be effective, it has to be appropriate for its intended audience. So that's a fundamental truth that you should always remember. However, that's easy to say in theory, but it's not so clear in practice. As a technical writer producing documents since 1998, I had to tell you that I personally looked at this problem quite a few times. As I mentioned earlier, this is not an easy task, and there is research that supports this statement. For one thing, for example, David L. Carson of Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, he said after his academic research that a technical writer usually performs his or her job with little or no knowledge about the audience. So tech writers usually write with a fictitious or imagined a composite general audience in mind. So how do you determine an audience? And what does it mean to determine who the audience is? One way to approach this question is to look at the demographical, educational, and social cultural profile of the audience, like the age group of the audience, the gender profile, if relevant at all, ethnic, cultural, or even national profile, if relevant again at all, general education level of audience, the background, the life experience of the audience, and the way they relate to the topic, the interest and motivation of the audience. They all go into determining who your audience is. For example, let's take age and education. If your audience consists of senior citizens, if you know that, they may not know what a server is or what a terabyte represents. So you may have to take your time explaining such technical terms if you are presenting a technical topic. But for a younger college-age audience, you may not have to do that at all. Actually, if you do that, there's a chance that you may insult them, alienate them. There are always special cases, of course. What if you are addressing a group of senior engineers? They are seniors, but engineers and product managers from Cisco or IBM. Again, in that case, I don't think you need to explain what a server is or what terabyte stands for. So it all depends, even for age and education category. Gender. Here's an example. If women are 90% of your audience, and you're writing a manual that explains how the human digestive system works, you probably should not mention chewing smokeless tobacco as an example of anything. Why? Because an overwhelming majority of tobacco chewers in the United States are white males. They are not females. Thus, a female audience may not relate easily or appreciate an activity that they have no experience with. Just an example. My audience personally, they consist of field reps and field installers of alarm systems. They are young to mid-age college graduates. They are well versed in technology. And since I pretty much know their profile, I've met many of them in person throughout the years. I know they don't need a lot of theory. They already know the theory and they don't use it much. And I can use jargon, technical terms in my writing. They pick it up right away. Wiring diagrams, they highly appreciate it because they are installing these systems. Flowcharts are great, visual communication of information. And in general, shorter the better. So those are the points that I pay attention to because of my special audience. To sum up, in theory, you have to know your audience and write for that audience. But in practice, it's not always easy for a technical or business writer to determine who that audience is. You must make sure your writing does not contain anything that would not be appropriate for your audience's gender, age, educational background, and other similar demographic characteristics. It takes time, folks. Feedback and practice again, and even more practice. See you in the next lecture.